So I got to get this off my chest, my early knee-jerk thoughts on this, although I have been thinking about it all day. I'm going to say this one more time. I admire Lavar Ball because he's a smart guy and because he loves his sons to a fault. And I'll say it one more time. I didn't have a father around very much, and when he was a really bad guy. Just an evil guy. Don't get me started on it. No, me and my brother, who's a pretty successful chef, and my little sister, we had it rough with my father. Trust me, it was hellish. And so I look at Lavar, and I look at all the fathers, all my years covering sports, who weren't there for their sons. The single-parent mom home, I basically came from that myself. Well, so here's a Lavar is he not engaged in his son's lives? Well, obviously it's become to a fault. And I love his number one son because I just like him. He's got a gift that Lavar did not teach him. Lonzo Ball can pass the basketball, in a once-a-generation level where you just get born with it. Lavar didn't teach or coach that. Lavar coached Lonzo all the way up, but man, Lonzo's got the gift. And he also has extremely high character, and he says and does all the right things, and he is unselfish to a fault. So the number one son is the flip side of Lavar, but the number one son put Lavar on the map, because if he didn't have the number 2 pick in the draft, nobody would care who Lavar Ball was or anything that he said. So he's established big baller brand, obviously, for all 3 sons. But now we see a repeat pattern where Lavar has become the ultimate all-time out-of-control, out-of-bounds stage father. He has continued to blame the coach for the problems of all 3 sons. It's the coach at Chino Hills, the new coach. I'm yanking my son out of there. We're taking our ball, so to speak, and going home. And then Steve Alford, he didn't like the way he punished his son for shoplifting on a big trip to China with 2 other kids. And he thinks that it was overly harsh punishment. And so he yanks that kid out of UCLA, and both those kids are going to Lithuania to play. And they've established in Lithuania the Big Baller Challenge, just so those kids, I assume Lavar is going to pay for it somehow, but just so they have some competition, because there's extreme competition there. They're the 2 leagues, obviously the Lithuanian leagues, which is better than our college basketball. Then there's the Baltic League, which is probably a little less than our college basketball and is more on par with extremely good high school AAU talent. Okay? So now they've got the Lavar Ball Classic going on, just so his kids get to play some, because I'm not sure they're good enough yet. I like the young one. I just see the YouTube highlights, but LaAngelo does not look like he's much of a player. He needed to stay at UCLA for 4 years probably to earn any shot at the NBA. The young one's got talent and he's got size. He's about 6'5" already, and he's got handle and he can shoot it from range, and yet he's thin, and he's got to grow into his, as Lavar says, his ball body, and one day he will, but he's still got a shot, but he needs competition. It's too bad he couldn't have gone to UCLA and played for 1 year, continued to play at the AAU level, or continue to play high school basketball at Chino Hills and play in the state tournament and show us what you got, kid. But now the 3rd coach is under fire, and that is the coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, Luke Walton. And Lavar criticized Luke for the way he's yanked Lonzo in some fourth quarters, and I don't love it either. And so here's the reason Lavar mixes your emotions is a lot of what he says has truth to it. I watch every Laker game. I got to tell you, I don't love the way Luke has coached this roster. And I don't think Lavar made a couple of really strong, good points. This team doesn't seem to like each other. I don't see a lot of high fives. I don't see a lot of rooting on the bench. I don't feel a togetherness. Watch a Spurs game, and I'm a Spurs fan, but they just love each other. They play for each other. They're all unselfish. They cheer like crazy for each other. And if Manu Ginobili at age 40 dunks, they just go crazy on the bench. And you could just feel how much they actually love playing basketball together. And I don't get that spirit that Luke is instilling in this team. Okay, it's young, but it's way better than its record. And for the record, this Laker team took Golden State to overtime twice and then went to Houston and won convincingly at Houston. So you can see it's there, but Lavar just has gone completely over the edge. He's made it so hard on his number one son by saying he's already better than Steph Curry and basically calling out established star point guard after point guard. They're going to have trouble with my son. No, they're not. Your son is 19. I guess he just turned 20 years of age, and he doesn't have his ball body. He doesn't have his man body yet. And plus, the most frustrating part of Lonzo's game is he just doesn't have a motor yet. I don't know if he'll get it. I know that's just the way he plays. Cool, calm, collected. But, man, he's just been disengaged. Maybe it's because he doesn't love Luke. I don't know. But I hate it that Lavar keeps giving every kid the excuse, it's the coach's fault. Let's go elsewhere. Next, are we going to hear that Lavar is going to yank Lonzo off the Lakers and take him to Lithuania and they're going to play 3-on-5? I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. Or is he going to, in our FS1 3-on-3 Ice Cube competition that we had last year, we're going to do it again next year with all the ex-NBA stars. Is that where they're headed? Are the Balls going to just be part of the big 3-on-3? They're not going to even participate in the NBA because Lavar doesn't like the way Lonzo or the others have been coached? It's insane, and it's out of control, and it's so unfair to the number one son. He had to say today, that's just my father. Don't listen to him. That's wrong. We're fine. Luke Walton had to say, we're fine. Jeannie Buss has tweeted even as late as New Year's Eve. She's all in on Luke Walton. I don't know what Magic thinks. We've had him on Undisputed. I have not personally asked him lately about what job he thinks Luke Walton is doing. It's just too early. It's a young team with a very young coach and a very young point guard who hasn't grown up yet, grown into his body, grown into his game. He's just figuring it out. It's hard. It's hardest for that position to translate into the NBA because there's cerebral parts to it. There's understanding how to work the star point guard guarding you and how to get your teammates involved, what their strengths and weaknesses are. It's just going to take time. We just turned into January. So Lavar has to leave it be, and yet he's trying to make excuses for his son, obviously, who's not performed quite up to the level that a lot of people expected, though he's had moments of absolute brilliance, and he's starting to make his threes now after a horrendous start, and Lavar's having to already blame the coach, saying he needs to go. We just turned into January, and Luke Walton needs to go. It makes it so hard on Luke because some of the players probably like Luke Walton, and so they're looking side-eyed at Lonzo like, can't you keep your father in check? Can't you do anything about this? And obviously, Lavar's even reached for criticizing some of the Lakers. He criticized Julius Randle for his play down the stretch of a game that he thought Lonzo should have closed and won. It's just outrageous how hard the degree of difficulty on Lonzo Ball is the highest I've ever seen on any rookie in any sport in my career. Any sport. No rookie has come in with this big a target on his back, and it only gets bigger because these quotes, now Rick Carlisle is firing back at ESPN saying ESPN should not run the quotes of some loudmouth blowhard. Yeah, they should. Lavar Ball has talked his way into being an international basketball celebrity. They're like the Beatles going to Lithuania. It's outrageous. He is the biggest rock star. He's a bigger star than Lonzo. And I guess that's what Lavar wanted all along. I know Lavar well enough to tell you, I don't think that's what he foresaw. But as it started happening, he started to love it. And he was a pretty good basketball player. He was a better football player, and he was on the practice squads of the Jets and the Carolina Panthers. So he was a good athlete, but he has nothing to show for it except those sons. And he thinks his sons hung the sun and the moon. And I don't blame that, because I got friends who think their kids are just the greatest things ever, and I can't say a word or I'll offend them. You just have to suck it up and swallow it and go on. But Lavar's on the international stage now. And I don't blame ESPN for printing his quotes. He's the father of the number 2 pick in the draft who's talked his way into becoming an international impresario of a businessman. He's got his own sneaker brand. It's outrageous how great the achievements are of Lavar Ball so far, because 6 months ago, 8 months ago, let's go 6 months ago, I barely knew who Lavar was. I knew who the kids were, but I wasn't that aware of the father. And I don't think you were either. And now everybody, he's a household name, not only in America, but in China and Lithuania. He's an international celebrity. And so you have to quote him, but he's going to, if he's not careful, he's going to wreck the career of his number 1 son. He's going to make it so hard on him. Everybody comes out night after night and tries to put it on the son, to put it on the father. It's just so out of bounds. It's so wrong to that poor good kid who is Lonzo Ball. How can he operate? Think of the pressure on him now that his father has called for the coach's job by we just gone, what? When did it start? October, November, December. So it's like, I don't know, 2.5 months of basketball. And we still got January, February, March, and April to go. We got 4 months left, and he's already called for the coach's job. How can Lonzo live with that? Well, he says he's been living with it his whole life, but not at this level, in this spotlight, in this city. I know he grew up in Chino Hills, but this is the Los Angeles Lakers, and now all eyes are on these Laker games because they're rooting against Lonzo Ball, because they're ultimately rooting against Lavar Ball. So I just... Look, and again, it mixes my emotions, because he's probably right in the big picture. I don't know if Luke Walton's the answer for this team. Magic, if you put him on a lie detector, would probably tell you that. But you just can't say it publicly. You could tell Magic privately. You could ask Magic to put in a good word for the kid and try to handle his minutes a little differently. He was mad about last night in, where was it, Charlotte, because Lonzo bounced back from his shoulder injury. Had missed, what, six, 7 games. And he looked really good. I was checking it out back and forth with the football game on, and he looked good. And he looked engaged more than he had been recently. And again, maybe it's because he doesn't like the coach. But as you all know, you can't just not like the coach and give up and unplug and disengage on various nights where you don't even look like you want to play. That's the father's fault. You have to overcome it. You have to be your own man and make your own way in the world. And I'm not sure any of these 3 kids are. So the kid I'm rooting for the most is the oldest kid, because he's a really good kid. I'm not saying the other kids aren't. I don't know anything about him. I've just been around Lonzo enough to tell you he does not deserve this. He plays the right way to a fault. And now... He's going to have a long next 4 months. Whew. Way to go, Lavar. I don't know. Lavar got what he wanted, because the brand is going to have legs to it, because kids everywhere are just on fire they love Lonzo. Everywhere I go, I see kids love Lonzo. Now they're loving LaMelo. I guess they're loving LiAngelo. It has mystique to it. I haven't even watched the game. I just see on TV that they lost at the Hawks tonight. So they've lost 9 straight games.